Hello and welcome to the CX Files. This is a special edition going out on 17th March 2025, which is a special day for the Irish, isn't it, Peter?
Indeed, it is. It is a very special day for both you and I as Irish passport holders, Mark. And we wish everybody, no matter where you are around the world, a very happy St. Patrick's Day. Drink a glass of green beer. And remember, on this day, this one day out of the year, everybody is Irish.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we really are Irish, which
We
is
truly are, yes.
funny, seeing as neither of us was actually born in Ireland, but thanks to our family, we have the connection.
That's it. Full disclosure, lived in Ireland for a few years in my late 20s, early 30s, and had a great time. A wonderful country. I always relish the opportunity to get back to it.
Okay, absolutely. Well, why don't we kick off with this special discussion then? Because this is sort of adjunct to the normal CX Files
Yeah.
feed, and we just thought that we wanted to put out a discussion on LinkedIn. Now, this is something that we're often talking about, and quite often we will send each other messages and terrible examples of LinkedIn posts that we find very annoying or upsetting. And so I think maybe the best thing is if you summarize, what sort of inspired you to say, hey, why don't we put out a short conversation about what's going on with LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's become very apparent over the course of the past couple of years, and certainly magnified in the last several months, about how LinkedIn has gone from a very important networking tool and for, I think it's very important for Mark, you and I both to say, without LinkedIn, I don't think either of us could have built our businesses the way we have. It's been phenomenal for making new connections. I've been able to find new clients using LinkedIn over the time that I've been working in this space. It's a very, very important digital asset that people can make use of. Unfortunately, it's been, I think, taken advantage of over the course of the past couple of years. There's a whole series of different aspects we're going to talk about today, but one thing that is truly, I think, a point of discussion, both anecdotally as well on LinkedIn itself, is more or less what people are saying is a free fall about how the network is really degenerating into an empty shell of what it used to be.
Yeah, okay, so absolutely. So why don't we sort of discuss some examples of this and maybe
Sure.
even like why we think it's happening? Because I mean, just to toss my opinion in there to begin with, I think that one thing we are definitely seeing is this idea of the kind of inspirational post,
Yeah.
the post that's got nothing at all to do with business or networking or the industry that people are working in, and yet it gets a phenomenal amount of attention, engagement, likes, and comments. And this is the typical thing is something like, here's a picture of my dog. I was walking my
Yeah.
dog this morning, and it gave me this great inspiration for a new business idea, stuff like this. And I think that here, what you're seeing is it's a problem of the algorithm. People are noticing that the algorithm is rewarding these kinds of posts with a cute picture or a video or something above and beyond informative posts that are more closely or directly linked to business. So, I suppose it's no surprise that people do it.
Yeah, there is no surprise, but at the same time, it's actually very discouraging for those of us who are looking for thought leadership, who are looking for cutting edge content or posts or anything of a commercial nature, a business update about what a company is up to or what an executive's up to. I mean, there have been some absolutely diabolical ones that have been polluting LinkedIn, Mark. One of the ones that comes to mind is how somebody was able to try and shoehorn how installing a pet door in their house over the course of a weekend inspired them for the work week coming up. I would also say that a lot of the stuff I think is very clear is being generated using different types of AI platforms. I actually did an experiment, and I thought to myself, well, what would it be like if I was to talk about how cleaning out my cat's litter box was going to inspire me for the coming work week? And if you'll permit me, I plug that subject matter into a Gen AI content generator, and I asked it to do a LinkedIn post for me of roughly maybe 200 words. So I'm going to read it out. And this is what it said: how cleaning my cat's litter box prepares me for the work week. Every Monday morning, I start my day with a simple but necessary task: cleaning out my cat's litter box. It's not glamorous, it's not particularly enjoyable, but it's an essential part of keeping my home and my cat happy and healthy. And oddly enough, I've come to realize that this small act sets the tone for the entire work week. Here's why. Number one, it's a fresh start. Just like cleaning out the old to make way for the new, a clean litter box reminds me that every week is a reset. No matter how messy things got last week, missed deadlines, unexpected challenges, or tough conversations, Monday's a chance to start fresh. Number two, discipline in the small things. In both work and life, success isn't about the flashy moments. It's about showing up for the unglamorous everyday tasks. Whether it's following up on emails, organizing projects, or having difficult but necessary conversations, tackling small responsibilities with consistency builds momentum for the bigger wins. And number three, if you don't do it, it piles up. Ignoring problems never makes them go away. Whether it's a growing to-do list or an unresolved issue at work, procrastination only makes things worse. Taking care of things regularly before they spiral out of control is key to staying ahead. So as I start my work week, I remind myself, embrace the process, handle the necessary tasks, and move forward with a clean slate, literally and figuratively. What's something unexpected in your routine that sets the tone for your work week? Let's hear it. This keeps professional yet relatable. Okay, sorry, that was the little bit at the end from the generator, but you can see, take that affirmation, that affirmative post that was generated, and you could switch out the cat litter box for all sorts of different things. And this is what people are doing, and it's ruining the network.
Yeah. Well, I had this conversation with a friend of ours, Steve Loynd, recently, because he posted a really informative, in-depth, deep dive into why he was feeling that maybe BPO has got some life left in it still. And it was a very deep dive. I mean, it's thousands of words. When Steve goes off on a tangent and starts thinking deeply about a subject, he definitely does some long form work on it. But it was interesting because he was showing that some of the BPOs are actually outperforming the big tech stocks right now. And so there is a sort of a comeback taking place. And he posted this and he got maybe a dozen likes on it. And he said to me on a text, I think that if I just posted a picture of a cup of coffee, I'd probably get more likes. And I dared him to do it. And so the next time he was at Dunkin' Donuts, he just posted a picture from Dunkin'. And I think he did get more likes for a picture of a coffee cup than for some detailed analysis exploring the industry. So what does this say to us? The network appears to be filled with garbage.
Filled with garbage and filled with fluff. Another problem, Mark, I think you and I wanted to talk about was what's going on with the in-mail function. Now, I have found over the years that LinkedIn Mail has been a superb way of being able to reach out to new connections, to individuals that maybe I've never had the chance to meet or to interact with, in order to maybe do some research, to get some opinions from them. It's really been a tool that I've been able to take advantage of. What I've noticed over the course of the past several months, though, is that regardless of the extent to which I'm trying to reach out to different individuals to try and catch up with them, maybe to talk about what's going on with their company or the location they're in or a new technology, a lot of messages are getting read, but they're just not getting replied to. Now, I put this down to the plethora of cheap sales outreaches that are being sent by people across the spectrum, especially from the CX tech side, people who you might have no connection with, but who are telling you about how they've got this great new tool, and can you set up 15 minutes of your calendar for them to have a talk with you about it? I did a bit of an outreach to a few people over the course of the past week or so as we prepared for this podcast to ask if I'm the only one who's having these problems. And no, it's a lot of people are saying that they're just getting bombarded on LinkedIn Mail. They, in many cases, aren't even checking LinkedIn Mail anymore because they say it's just become a network of spam. This is truly, I think, undermining the value of what the network's been able to do in regards to establishing new and very real, concrete professional relationships.
Yeah, and I think that this is the question here. What does Microsoft have to do to maintain the usefulness of the network? And I was thinking that, maybe we're just sort of moving on from this idea of a social network being the most important place for everybody to be connected. Because certainly, if you look at what's happening with the B2B buyer community, they're just asking questions of Gen AI. People are just going straight to their favorite Gen AI tool and saying, which is the best customer service provider in North Africa, and expecting it to come back with advice and answers. And these are the sort of searches you would have expected to be taking place within LinkedIn previously. Searching for companies, searching for information, posts, even individual executives at companies in certain locations, and yet a lot of it is now switching over to Gen AI.
And if we're not careful, the usefulness of this whole messaging platform will indeed be, I think, removed, and you'll see people find alternative means. That's not good for LinkedIn, and it's not going to be good for maintaining one-to-one B2B relationships. Mark, another thing that you and I have talked about in terms of the regression that we've seen over the course of the past while has been far too much political content on LinkedIn. And I think we can agree that over the years, this was not really something that happened. There was almost an unwritten rule that you might have your own political preferences, you might have your own party that you support or individual candidates, but that was sort of left alone. I've noticed that for quite some time now, I'd say at least for the past year, there is a ton of individual postings around different aspects of politics, whether it's elections, whether it's policy decisions, whether I think the UK budget was a big example of this last November, where you had not just discussions about the policy, but also, unfortunately, it sort of turned to personalities too. And this is unfortunate because we see what that's done to networks like Twitter or X or whatever it's called this week, Facebook, etc. LinkedIn needs to do a reset and clamp down on this because, again, it's not constructive and it's turning people off.
Yeah, and I think that maybe one of the problems here is that the things that we've seen with many of the other networks is that they almost started rewarding outrage other than quality of information. And if that's how your algorithm starts rewarding people, then people will be posting ever more outrageous comments and posts. And I mean, if that's where we're heading with LinkedIn, then it's extremely dangerous for a business network. I mean, the point of this is not that we should be trying to annoy and outrage each other. I think everyone would be quite happy to just leave all of that stuff on X and keep this as a business focused community. And I don't know what the answer is, because if they are using this kind of weighting on the algorithm to decide what stuff you see, then Microsoft does have a big problem. I don't know if something like the up and down votes that you see on Reddit might be useful on LinkedIn, so that if you do get egregious examples of absolute BS, then you can downvote it. You can actively say, I don't want to see any more of this kind of stuff in my feed. So I'm not sure if that would help, but certainly they need to actually sit back and think, well, if we don't do something here, then we may end up just becoming irrelevant after having a good run of more than a decade as becoming, the preeminent sort of business networking tool globally.
I couldn't agree more. Something else that's popped up that you and I wanted to bring up in the course of our discussion today was the element of LinkedIn being now more and more focused around hype cycles and promoting hype cycles as opposed to real thought leadership. And I go back to the reference you made about Stephen Lloyd, and what Steve was talking about in terms of a post about how BPO maybe isn't dead. That's a very important subject that's certainly in the realm of our area when it comes to CX, and not necessarily getting the views or getting the interactions. Yet I don't think there's a day that you can log on to LinkedIn where, as you start to scroll, you're not going to see the sentence AI is revolutionizing CX at least 7 or 8 times in the first 5 or 6 minutes. And it's this type of almost egregious, blatant promotion and unsubstantiated hype cycle content that again I think is turning people off. And I heard the expression the other day, doom scrolling, and people are saying they're doom scrolling, trying to find something that's not related to promoting a hype cycle, not that's not related to promoting a hype cycle around a particular solution or product, and actually to find something real and relevant from a thought leadership perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I'm tired of that myself. If I'm scrolling through LinkedIn looking for something interesting to read, then I won't give it very long before I'll just give up. So, and that's not good for the network, because certainly, I mean, I know that you've given up on pretty much every other social network over the years,
Yeah.
and I've been doing so much more actively in the past year or so. So, I mean, I had a very big following on X, and I've just walked away from that because, it's a toxic environment, and it's just full of people that are deliberately posting stuff just to generate outrage. And it's just
Yeah.
no fun to sit there scrolling through that stuff anymore. Again, it's exactly what you're saying about doom scrolling. You find yourself scrolling through looking for something interesting, and life is too short for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's too short if LinkedIn does not want to serve the purpose of having provocative commercial content and is going to be a platform for either self-promotion or promotion of things that have no substance or concepts that have no substance, then I don't give the platform that much time. And I think we'll see it going the way of Facebook and X, just in regards to how individuals interact on it. And I think, Mark, as we come to the wrap up, to the conclusion of this special CX Files episode, I have heard a lot of people talking about how LinkedIn is now being treated like Facebook, or it's being treated like what maybe Twitter was several years ago. And you keep hearing, this is LinkedIn, this isn't Facebook. Uh, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there is a sense amongst users that they want to share the overlap from their professional life into their personal life. They want to share personal experiences because they feel more comfortable doing it on LinkedIn. I personally have no problem if somebody has had a great personal experience and they want to share it with friends in their professional network. That's not an issue for me. I think what we need to make sure, though, is that a lot of the lessons that we learned from Facebook and from Twitter/X over the course of the past several years are not replicated on LinkedIn. Because, as I say, I go back to it, LinkedIn has been an invaluable tool for both you and I building our businesses. I don't think I would know half the people in the industry were it not for the connections I've made on LinkedIn. I've been able to get new clients using the tool. I've been able to recruit speakers for conferences using the tool. I've made personal friends using the tool. And to my mind, there's a huge amount of value that it brings to the table, but it can't be put at risk for, quite frankly, some blatant problems that are becoming even more blatant and that are turning people off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that certainly if anyone at Microsoft hears this and wants to get any kind of input more formally into the idea of how do we get voices from across various different industries involved in just suggesting what do they need to do to avoid going down the path of, well, almost irrelevance with Facebook, and and posts filled with hate or outrage on X. And this is not how to run a business network. It's not really working anymore. And definitely the algorithms that they're using are just rewarding people for the wrong kinds of posts. So definitely they're on a slippery path. And I'm sure that we would both be happy to pitch in if anyone there actually did ask for any industry advice.
That's right. We'd like to hear from you, and we would love anybody, once we post the episode, to provide comments when we put it up on LinkedIn. Feel free to message Mark or I directly. There's also the possibility of leaving a comment in the comment section for a public discussion. This is very much a debate we think needs to be had. And as I say, we would love to hear what your thoughts might be.
Okay, everybody, well, have a great St. Patrick's Day. And let's hope that this short conversation just kicks off a debate about, how do we keep LinkedIn useful for all of our businesses? Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. We really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. You can reach myself, Mark Hillary, or Peter Ryan via LinkedIn. Please also leave a rating or review on your favourite podcast provider, as that helps more people to find us. As always, we'd like to thank Chris Haig at Traction Media for the CX Files graphics. See you next week.